Hi, welcome to another episode of the Japa podcast. As usual, I'm Victor, your host. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Remember, this podcast, we talk about the lived experiences of Nigerians in the diaspora. And as always, I have with me a guest, a very interesting person, someone I've known for quite a long time, even though we've not really been in connection. I'm going to just let her introduce herself.
Okay, so hi Victor. Thank you for having me here in your podcast. Japa, hey, where will the Japa go?
You go tell us now.
Okay, guys, my name is Gloria Chiwendu Diego. I'm a student here in China, actually studying
Okay.
fisheries economics, and currently in Shanghai, in one of the universities in Shanghai. So if you want to know the real university, I think you should come into the podcast, right? So I don't need to say that.
No, no, you don't have to say the name of the university. I think that's pretty much enough. Yeah, so
Okay.
Gloria and I met in 2014, was it 15? Around the time when we were still doing student
Yeah.
politics.
Do you know there was a time I saw like a picture I posted when we went to the, was it the State House of Assembly? Can you
Yes,
recall?
the House of
Like,
Assembly. We went to the Anambra State House of
yeah.
Assembly, yes.
Yeah. So Facebook had to send me a reminder. I'm like, wow, it's been a long time. I
And I don't have any of those photos anymore. In case you get that reminder again, please.
Yeah, I think the
Oh,
one
goodness.
I took with Daniel. Like, do we still call ourselves honorables, right? Do I call you honorable
Well, those
Victor
days are
or
gone. Who is honorable? Who is
Yeah, I think
honorable?
I sent it to Daniel. I'm like, guy, see you. He was like, hey, where did you get this picture from? I said Facebook reminder. He was so happy about it. It's a good one.
Yes, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
those days were cool. So, for those who don't, let me just quickly explain. We both were in the same university and we're in the Student Representative Council. I represented my department, she represented her department. And interestingly, I became the chief clerk of the house and she became the assistant chief clerk. So, we worked together for that 1 year. We saw each other most of the time. I think at some point it was almost like we became best friends because I could go to her house. You never visited me, but I visited you a few times. And
yeah.
yeah, that was it. So, before we go into talking about your experience studying in China, how have you been? What have you been up to? What did you do for the last week? I mean, this is a new week. So, what did you do for the last week? How have you been?
I'm good. I'm fine. Trying to keep up with my academic requirements, like data collection, writing one or two. And the weather has been pretty wet. It has been raining all through the week. Even now, it's still
Okay.
raining. So, yeah, I've been good. Hale and hearty. I'm fine. How about you? How have you been?
I mean, it's nice to hear that you are hale and hearty. Before I answer, what season are you guys in China? I don't actually know how the seasons are in China, which is quite a shame. For me, I've not do geography. Please tell me.
I think we share the same seasons. Like we have four
Just like
seasons.
Nigeria.
We have Nigeria. We have two seasons, right? Just
Yeah.
the raining
Mm-hmm.
and the dry season. But here in China, we have four seasons. We have winter, we have spring, we have summer, and then we have fall.
Okay, so
So
it's
currently we're
summer
in
there now,
summer.
right? Okay, I mean that
Yes,
means
it
it's similar to
is.
what we have in Germany. But also it has been raining quite
Yeah.
more than usual for summer, even here.
Okay.
And I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like
So
it.
what
No, no,
season
no,
do
no,
you
no, no.
prefer?
I love summer, but
Like,
without the rain. I love, interesting, I love rain, but being an adult means that sometimes you're going out to work in the rain. You're going to do whatever you have to do in the rain, and it's very annoying. If it's just going to rain only at
Yes.
night and then get sunny in the day, that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, but we cannot have it that way all the time. So,
Unfortunately, yes. So how
yeah.
have
So
I
what do you
been?
use? Umbrella.
Yes, of course. I have umbrella. It's always in my backpack. Because of how unpredictable the weather is, I always have an umbrella.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So how have I been? I have been well. I have been fine. So it's what did I do last weekend? Last week actually, it's mostly the same thing. When you're an adult, you have to go to work. You have to. Yeah, I think the just I did last week was work. So one of my brothers was supposed to visit this month. He we spoke earlier last week. He said he was no longer sure he was coming this month. That it would be next month. I was like, okay, that's fine. Only for this man to call
Okay.
me on Wednesday to say he was coming on Friday. And I'm like, sir, what are you talking about? How is it now so sudden? And I'm like, he said because there
Yeah.
was something with his friend. So he said he had to check with his friend again before he get back to me. And because I was no longer prepared to have somebody. I don't have any food in the house. I remember thinking, what am I going to do? Do I have to cook? Do I have to? I was really stressed. But luckily, he also texted back to say, no, he's not coming. That would be this week. So at least now I have enough time to prepare and get things done. So that was it
Yeah.
last week. Aside from that, it was just a typical week. So now hopefully he's coming this week. And after this record, now I'll have to step out, get a few things because it makes sense that when someone is coming to your house, you have food in the house. So they don't starve at the very
Exactly.
least.
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be
So now
nice.
yeah, surely. So let's get into it. Um, how did your journey to China start?
Okay, my journey to China I started in 2018 because I had my seniors, like senior colleagues in my department. We had
Yeah.
about three of them who applied for the Chinese government scholarships and they got it. So when they left, I had to keep communication with them. Oh, I would love to try this. I would love to do what you guys did. You know, they had to set that pace for us to follow. And that was where the interest of China came in. I never had the intention of traveling to China, but then you have seniors who have traveled and then they talk good about the country and they were willing to assist, like based on giving you the information and everything required for you to try the same thing. So it started in 2018. I graduated in 2018 in Nnamdi Azikiwe University. And when we graduated, you know how it's like in Nigeria. You need to try everything to get your transcript, certificate. It wasn't really easy. And then you're trying to like go for your NYSC. So when we graduated, what I did, because I was a course rep and also the president of my department, so I had to
Oh,
discuss with the head of
she.
department, like I had to discuss with her, like, mom, because she's very supportive. She's even up to now, we still communicate. She's a very
I
good
think I
woman,
remember your head of
Dr. Ikogo.
department. Okay, no, it wasn't her. There was, sorry, I
Yeah,
cut you
Dr.
short.
Iko.
There's this other woman in your faculty that I interviewed when I was still in Unizik FM. I'm trying to remember her name.
Oh,
I think
Professor
it was the first
Muba. Professor
Muba, yes, I just remembered
female.
her. She was a very
Yeah, she
nice
was
woman.
the
But I think
dean.
she was the first dean of the faculty, yes.
Yeah, I think the second, there was a man before her. I think
I said the
so.
first
Yeah,
female
yeah.
dean, yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I also got like a recommendation letter from her as well. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, Professor Muba. I think she's retired now.
Oh, really? I mean, yeah, it makes sense. She was such a lovely, at the time she was very lovely and nice. Yeah, so you said you
Yeah.
started in 2018 and you left in 2019 eventually, right?
Yes, I did. I did. I left in
So
2019.
basically,
I came to China in September 2019. Yeah.
so give or take, it took about 1 year for the whole process to work, or at least a little. A little more than that.
Yes, yes.
Interesting. Did you have to learn the Chinese language? Because I think at the time, you remember I learned Chinese a little bit. I don't even remember.
Really? Ni hao.
Yes, I think ni hao ma. Then you say what hen how and all of those whatever. Yes, I did HSK
Wohen
one and
hao.
two.
Very good.
I did
Wow.
HSK one and
I never
two.
knew
It
this.
was also it was also the school points that are part of the things that contributed because by the time I became chief clerk, it was around the time I was supposed to start my HSK three. So I think there was
Wow.
classes getting more serious, and then with the
Yeah.
whole thing with the SRC, that shit was it was time taking. So I couldn't create time for the classes. And also the classes were now in the morning because initially it was about 2 p.m. Then it became morning, 10 a.m. Most times I had classes. So that's when I stopped. But I don't think you ever did gem. I don't know if you ever eventually did. So I'm wondering, at what point did you start learning Chinese? Did you learn Chinese at all before you left, or did you have to learn when you got to China?
I think I learned Chinese HSK 1 and 2 during my internship at the Unizik Fish Farm, but that was in
Okay.
2017. Yeah, I think I learned for about 3 weeks. No, 3 months.
Three
But
months
then I
is it's
had to
usually
like
around that.
I had to plead with my head of department because it's not meant to be. You're having your internship, then it should be strictly on internship, right? But then I
Yeah.
enrolled for the Confucius one and two. I wasn't really too serious about it. And you keep hearing students saying, oh, without learning Chinese, you can't go to China, blah, blah, blah. Your Chinese needs to be very good, proficient, blah, 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 blah. But then people can still go to China without learning Chinese. And how did I know about this? From my seniors, like their Chinese
Yeah.
were not even good. But then they could apply directly for the Chinese government scholarship without going through Confucius. Because even when you come to China, you still need to like do the HSK 1 and 2. That's like a requirement, right?
Okay.
It's a requirement for your courses. Just like GS, we need to do GS, Igbo, right?
Yeah.
When we're in Unizik. So here you need to do Chinese. So when they left, they didn't pass or they didn't do Confucius or they didn't enroll into Confucius and they found themselves in China. They could apply for the Chinese government scholarship. So I did the same. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that totally makes sense because at the time too, we hear people talking because then we had Confucius Institute in Music, and you hear people about people who have traveled, and it's always the same thing, like you said. Everybody is assuming that you can't go to China if you don't speak Chinese. When I started, I didn't have any plan of going to China. It was basically me being curious about the language. And
Language.
I, yes, and I think it was kind of easy for me because I did very well with the HSK 1 and 2 until they introduced the Chinese
Wow.
characters. When they introduced the Chinese characters, I don't know how to draw, and anything that involves drawing scares me. So I think to be fair, actually, I know I blame it on not having enough time. The actual thing was I was struggling with that HSK 3. That's the main reason I had to stop because remembering all the characters and what they represent, like I think Renshu was something like this. There was a particular symbol for everything, and you just have to build on it. I found it fascinating, but it was
Yes.
just too much for me to comprehend at the time. And I think in retrospect, maybe I should have stuck it out. And also, if I can learn Chinese with just learning the pinyin and not having to learn the characters, I'll do it. It would be nice because I think I found out that the Chinese language and Igbo has a lot of things in similar. Let me explain. I think the grammar rules in
Yeah.
Igbo language is the same with the grammar rules in Chinese, in Mandarin at least. Because if you translate a
Yeah.
Chinese sentence to English, as in word for word, it will make sense. But most times, if you translate from Chinese to Igbo,
No.
it makes sense, and then vice versa. That's not your
Yeah, you're
experience.
right. And then the use of tones. Yeah, it is.
Exactly, yes,
And
because
then the
tones
use
is
of
also a very big thing
tones.
in Igbo
Yeah.
language, yes. Your tone determine you can change
Yeah.
one word from eze to eze and things like that. And in Chinese, it
Uh,
was similar too. So those are things I know I remember, which I think why I did well with the HSK 1 and 2. But then the characters was just too hard because I think they are the root words. I think that's how they explained it. Then that you have to draw them this way. Then depending on what you are saying, you have to now add either to the up or below or middle. And I'm like, how am I supposed to remember all of this?
it's learn all this. Yeah, it takes a lot, right? It takes a lot of discipline for you to learn Chinese
Yes. So
because the
how is your
characters
Chinese
are,
now?
yeah. Oh, my Chinese is still like basic because my major here is in English. So after passing my requirements or HSK 1 and 2, I decided to just focus on what brought me here because it needs its own time, it needs its own attention, and I don't think you have such time. Although some persons can actually like merge both together, like learning the language and then doing their major courses. But learning a language for me, it's a bit difficult. I think it's more of like a gift. Some persons may go to a new environment and learn the language within a space of 1 month, 2 months. Why some it takes them years, right? I think that's where I fall in. And currently, I had to pass my HSK 3 because it's a requirement for my studies. So I spent
Okay.
about 3 years. No, I spent about 3 months just for HSK 3. Like, I had to give it my 3 months just to pass.
Yeah.
After writing the exam, I passed. I said, oh, bye then. I said bye for now. But you see,
So maybe
your
when there's another requirement,
supervisors
you continue.
exactly because this thing needs attention. But the truth
True.
is, I envy those who can't speak Chinese like fluently. Chinese is very important for your survival here in China. I've traveled to Germany and then I saw the difference between Germans and Chinese. Germans don't have patience. Like, I cannot speak German, right? But then they don't have
Yeah.
the patience for you to use a translator to, like, maybe you write something in English and then you show a
Yeah.
German and you expect the German to read and then understand and then translate or something like that.
Ah, when is not
Germans
jazz.
don't. Exactly. Germans don't have patience. But for a Chinese, like Chinese, they have the patience. Although not all, but
Yeah.
then majority have the patience. Majority of them have these English translators. So when you
Yeah.
write something in English, it translates. And then you show it to a Chinese, you get a response. Like, except the person doesn't know exactly what you want, or maybe
Yeah.
the person doesn't understand, right? You see, the same way we try to learn how to speak our native language, which is Igbo, right? Some Chinese are also
Yeah.
struggling to understand how to read and how to write Chinese. So it's still the same. You still have those set of people amongst the locals. But when you talk about approaching them and getting a response, it's more easier than meeting a German and then you say, oh, you write something. Like I had the experience. I'm trying to, like, when I got to Germany, I thought it was the
Yeah.
same. And then
Where in
the
Germany did you go
response I
to?
got, okay, I was at what they call this place? Is it Saarbrücken? Like
Okay, I've heard about
Frankfurt,
Saarbrücken.
Saarbrücken.
Yeah, but I've
Yeah,
never been. Yeah.
Saarbrücken, yeah. Yeah, that was where I stayed. So it was really cool. Yeah, why are you
So,
laughing?
okay, I was going to say, I think in German, it's even if you give them your phone to read, they would actually push back. Even if they really like what's going on, they'll be surprised. I think they're more likely to wait for you to
Yeah,
translate and even maybe manage to say it, as opposed to handing them your phone or placing them on their face. Because I think they're very a little bit careful about privacy and also, like you said, they don't
yeah,
have
yeah,
that
yeah.
patience. Yes. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never
they
been to
don't.
China, but I don't know. I think maybe it's. But I think from my understanding, they are more warm people, and I think I see why it could work. That you show them your phone and they pay attention to you. But I'm also going to ask you: are there enough people who speak um English that if you get do you meet a lot of Chinese people who speak English? Because I think here in Germany, it depends on where you live. If you live in big cities like Berlin, like my friend that
Mm,
went to Berlin recently was telling me that how he didn't bother, he didn't have to speak German to anybody because you hear people speak English on the street. And to be fair, that's how it is in
yeah.
Berlin. In big cities like Munich, you can also hear
Mm.
people speak English on the street. But if you live in smaller cities, like where I live now, where I used to live, I could easily meet people who speak English. Where I live now, not as much because it's smaller. So I've been speaking more German than I used to. So what I'm asking is basically, are there cities or are there places in China where you're more likely going to meet enough people who speak English so you can just have conversations with them without having to even use a translator?
Okay, you made mention of like Germans trying to respect one's privacy. Yeah, the thing
Yeah.
is, you're not just showing them your phone, like you just meet someone and then you're showing them your no. There's already a conversation and then there's no communication, right? Like you're
Yeah.
saying something in English and then the other person is responding in German. There is no communication. And then you're like, okay, can I translate? And then you're typing and you're like, you need to translate to show the person. So I think there's a bridge in communication. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the major thing. Then for the Chinese, yeah, there are cities you go to and you find some Chinese who are a bit proficient in speaking English. Like their spoken English is okay. Why some it's still the like broken English, like they pick pieces. But then there's a communication. The
Yeah.
most important thing is to communicate like how the language or how your grammar is. Nobody really cares about it, especially as a foreigner. A foreigner will only care
True.
about how you speak your English. If you're a foreigner and then you say something and yeah, that's what we care about it. But for a Chinese, we don't really care much because we know that English is not their official language. Places like here in Shanghai, you find a
Yeah.
lot of Chinese that speak English. Like Beijing, this is the capital, just like Berlin,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you find people who could speak English. And you find a lot of foreigners. Yeah, and you find a lot of international schools, Chinese kids enrolling in international schools where English is also used as a method of or a language in the
Communication. Yeah.
classroom. Yeah, so yeah, you have that in some key cities. Why some it's not really there. So you end up
Another
maybe using
thing.
your translator if your Chinese is not good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I think that totally makes sense. Now, you said you've done HSK 1 to 3. So I'm also curious now as to what are the limits of the things you can communicate? Because I have the equivalent, I have done up to B1, which is the equivalent of the
Mm,
HSK 3 in terms of German. So I think
yeah.
I can communicate in my current workplace. The official language is German. And I tell you, when we do meetings, sometimes I understand everything. Sometimes I'm like, okay, not everything, but I understand relatively enough of what has been said. And I tell you also, I think sometimes when I speak, just like, you said something about as long as communication has been achieved, you don't have to be grammatically correct. But because of me, I'm a bit very too obsessed with grammar. Sometimes I speak and I'm like, no, that is not the right sentence. Like I was talking to someone yesterday. So in German, when you have two verbs in a sentence, the first one is in the second place. Like the second word in the sentence has to be the verb, and then the last verb has to be at the end
Mm,
of the sentence. So but
okay.
when you have a conjunction like if and all of that, it also changes the sentence. So I had used
Okay.
then. Anybody that knows German knows what I mean, then. So from the start of the sentence, so which is then is equivalent of if in English. So Invariably, the next sentence, after the place you put comma, the next sentence or the next phrase is supposed to start with a verb. But I didn't do that. The person understood what I said. But for me, because it just was not correct, I remember putting myself up like, oh God, why would you make kind of this kind of thing? What if this is an exam situation? Also, there was a time a colleague was typing something, and I realized this person speaks very fluent German. He speaks German, people understand him, he's not German. And I realized some of his spellings were wrong. Me, I cannot speak, oh, but I could see the spelling. And then I was trying to correct him, but he couldn't accept the correction because in his head, look at, that kind of, you that struggle to speak German, I'm like,
Yeah.
that guy stood up, I corrected it. Immediately he stood up to get something, I quickly went to the system and corrected. Because the document he was working on, it was both of us that were supposed to work on the document. So it's in my head. They will now say that we
Okay.
submitted the document and there's incorrect spellings. I'm like, no, 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 we're not going to do this. I quickly corrected all the wrong spellings I noticed. I'm like, Victor, why are you so obsessed?
Yeah.
But I think invariably, I'm very sure that even if I didn't correct those spellings, whoever the document was being sent, which is our boss, who is that's our boss, was going to understand what we're saying. And like I said, the person that I
Yeah.
spoke to yesterday when I made a mistake in my grammar understood what I was saying. But for me, I'm still very much obsessed. So what I'm trying to ask is, do you think that the limit of your German proficiency? Because I think if you've gotten to HSK3, you should be able to have enough Chinese to do your day-to-day interactions. So do you think the limit of your own
Years.
Chinese proficiency is due to the fact that you're also a bit too scared and concerned about grammar, or is it just because you passed the exam because well you have to pass the exam, in which case you didn't really pay much attention? Do you understand my question?
Yes, I do. I think I'll go with the letter. I didn't pay much
Oh,
attention. I only yeah, I only just prepared for my HSK 3 like,
yeah,
and I didn't really care so much about so many things which I regret. But then, because of time, although I had all the time in
yeah,
the world to, not really, I have all the time in the world to prepare, but I already set aside in my work plan, oh, this is the time I'm going to write HSK 3, right? So I just want
yeah,
to do this and then keep going, get it done. Yeah, so I didn't really pay so much attention on whatever the grammar is. I know it's just subject, verb, object. This is just how it's been arranged. But the higher you
yeah,
go, the rule changes, right? And then you have more
yeah,
characters to learn, more rules to observe, even while speaking. At first, when I came to China in 2019, I only
yeah,
focused on writing. My writing was very good. So the characters you're
yeah,
complaining about, I was good at it, like very good at
okay,
writing. I was good at writing, and then reading, pronunciation of some words were not accurate because I didn't pay attention to the tones. We have four
yeah,
tones, like four tones. I wasn't paying attention to the tones. But then my writing was the best. My reading, pronunciation, speaking, I didn't even focus on that. Then listening was zero. Like I could say ni hao and then someone would say ni hao to me, but I don't understand. This is basic, right?
yeah,
So all the skills were not going hand in hand. But still I didn't
yeah,
care because I just needed to pass my course. I passed first semester, second semester the same. But at some point I said to myself, I need to focus also on listening because listening is very important. Apart from writing, you can find a lot of foreigners that can speak Chinese. They understand
yeah,
Chinese, but then they cannot write, which is okay. It's not your language, right? The most important thing is for you
yeah,
to be able to listen, to be able to speak. Writing shouldn't be much of a problem to you because you're a foreigner. And then we have devices. You have Chinese keyboards. So if you're able to identify the character, this is where the problem is. So you need all the skills together because if I say nin how, nin means
yeah,
different things, right?
yeah.
So there are
Because you're
different
talking to an
characters for
elderly
nin.
person,
So
yeah. Okay.
yeah, so there are different characters for nin. So you need to know which one you're referring to. Let me just assume like
Yeah.
ni means you, ni means I, ni means maybe a water bottle or something like that. But then you
Yeah.
should be able to identify the characters. But recently I started paying attention to listening. So if someone makes a full sentence, I try as much as I can to pick at least one word and be able to decode, oh, this is what this person is referring to.
Yeah.
Except you make a sentence and then I totally don't understand. And I'll be like, oh, sorry, Timbuton. Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Yeah. So
I see
this
what you
is
mean.
not really
Like talking
good.
about passing the exam, when I did my German class, where I used to do my German class, I have this person, he has C1, which is like the highest, not highest, but almost when you have C1, it means that you have native level um proficiency.
German. Like,
Yeah, but then
okay,
he was
yeah.
also doing B1 with me. Do you know what I found out? Because his program he studied in Germany required him to have C1, he passed the exam. He was
Yeah.
able to pass his classes, but he couldn't speak, which is why he came back to learn. So for him, it was just let me pass the exam first, get this whole thing done. At that time, he was done with his program. He has a job. He studied engineering, so it was not a problem
Mm,
for him to get a job. But he was now back in class to
yeah.
learn how to speak. And I remember that thing gave me some scare because I was like, so it's possible for me to get up to the pass all the exams and still not speak, which is
Yes.
quite true with I mean exam you pass exam if you know the rules, if you understand whatever the rules are, you're going to pass it. And language exam
Yeah.
is almost the same. Language is actually almost the same thing. There are formulas, there are rules. If you remember those rules and you're able to apply it, you pass the exam. It doesn't exactly
Yeah.
matter if you really can do the actual work. And I think I like the fact that you're at least honest with yourself about the challenge. And I hope you go back to learning because I think it's going to definitely improve your experiences of Chinese. But the next I'm going to ask you is job,
Yeah.
in terms of getting jobs, how does your level of Chinese proficiency affect the kind of job you have access to? I'm going to say because in Germany here, for certain jobs, if you can, any job that involves interacting with clients or people, when you don't speak fluent German, you can't get it. Even if the company is a foreign company that is in Germany, because I mean, at the end of the day, their clients are predominantly German-speaking people. So if you want to be a medical doctor, for instance, you have to get at least up to B2. If you want to work in the field of communication, you need a B2 or C1. Certain kind of jobs, you are just not going to get it if you don't speak German. For jobs like engineering, some research, maybe the science field also, I think you can get it even with limited German proficiency. So I'm asking in China, are there jobs that you are not able to get just because you can't speak um, Chinese fluently? I mean, especially since you are working after your studies now, do you think your level of proficiency would affect the kind of job that you will that you can have access to?
Okay. Speaking Chinese is very, very important. Most of the jobs you need Chinese. Like your Chinese has to
Mhm.
be pretty good for communication because even while working, your computer, everything is in Chinese. Your colleagues at work, you don't expect everyone to be proficient in speaking English, right?
Yeah.
So you still need to have some level of understanding of Chinese. Your Chinese needs to be good. Some jobs they even ask you like, do you speak Chinese? If you say no, it's like a no already. But then as a student, we are not expected to work. So I'm just sharing this experience based on my
Yeah.
friends who have a working visa here. Yeah. So getting a job and learning how to speak Chinese, they go hand in hand. If your Chinese is very
Yeah.
good, chances of getting a job is high. But then if you're an expert, maybe you're very good like in a particular thing, maybe a programmer or something, and your Chinese is not good. they could bend that rule, right? Because they need you.
Yeah.
It means you're very
Yeah.
good. They need you. Yeah, you're an asset, right? So then maybe, but then you are encouraged to learn Chinese. At some point, you're encouraged to learn Chinese because how long will you keep using a translator to communicate with your colleagues? Apart from international companies like maybe Google, Microsoft, those foreign companies here, most of the Chinese companies here, you need a good level of Chinese for you to be able to have things going well, working out well for you at your place of work, not it to be very difficult. Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. But we've dwelt so much on the language. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk culture shock.
Okay.
So you've left Nigeria, you've gone to this new country. What was the first? Okay, first of all, I imagine you have an idea of what to expect. Now, what you met, did it match your expectation? Was it above your expectation? And what culture shocks did you have?
Okay, yeah, somehow it was above my expectation because I had this mindset of China being beautiful, but not like the way it is now. Like China is pretty, pretty, pretty beautiful. Like
Yeah,
it's a very nice country, and I hope you visit here someday.
I hope to, but the flight's
Yeah.
money, oh
Then
my
culture
God.
shocks. Yeah. God.
It is
Yeah, the
expensive,
flight
but
money.
mm-mm.
It is. But it's what's the sacrifice if you could make that kind of sacrifice. I think in Germany you guys have a lot of old, let's say old buildings which are quite
Yes.
strong, like here. But here you have like a lot of skyscrapers, you have a lot of new stuff. So I think it's something mind blowing in most cities here in China, well developed. Culture shocks. Yeah, you're a black man, then skin difference. Those are the kind of things
Yeah.
which is normal. Yeah. So some people are just like surprised. Wow, where do these people come from? Do they
Yeah.
exist? Like, so it is expected. And then different dishes, based on kind of food. I think
Yeah.
this was something that took me time to blend in because when I came, like, I kept on eating just rice, rice, rice. Although rice is one of their major meals, but then rice and what kind of sauce? I was so selective. I couldn't just start,
Yeah.
diving into every kind of meal. But now, come on, I can eat any Chinese meal so long as it's well cooked. I can
Okay.
eat
But do you know
like
how to cook them
I
yourself?
don't care. No, I've not tried. No, no, no. I just
Okay.
cook some of our African meals here.
Yeah.
I think that's like the major shock. What else? Yeah, different. I think we have similar culture. Like they value their
Mm,
culture. Same for us as Igbos. Yeah, they value their culture. They value like heritage. They value everything. And based on training kids, you could find them putting so much to train their kids. I think as of then, they had the one child policy, but
yeah.
now they have two or more. Then it was, I think I met the one child policy until last year. That was when the policy was changed to two or more. So imagine one child and you're investing a lot on one kid. So these kids end up doing a lot of things. You have a child, within the week his life is planned, like maybe on Monday he has to go for piano lectures, Tuesday he's
Yeah.
swimming, next tomorrow he's doing badminton. So their life is all planned, like they always have something to do. And here
Yeah.
there's nothing like African time. Punctuality, oh my goodness. I think this is like a cultural shock, by the way.
See, when I come to a place
Yeah.
to an event and it starts at the time, I was like, are you really starting now? Like, are we really going to do that?
Yes.
Because that can never be Nigeria. Like, there were times I come for an event, they close in 2 hours. I'm like, Like if we really did everything according to plan, what's the going on?
Yeah.
You're taking classes, the lecturers are there. I'm
Yeah.
like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Here, your 2 year studies, your 2 year study. There's nothing like ASU
Yeah,
strike, whatever strike, like nothing. Like everything is just going the way it's planned, right? So two
yeah,
o'clock is 2 o'clock. Like if your supervisor tells you, "Oh, come meet me at 4," man, be there like 10 minutes before the time because for us, I think maybe when we started, we had this
yeah,
orientation from Nigerians that were here. They were like, there's nothing like African time here. If your lecture is at 7, is at 7.
yeah,
Anything is like at the exact time. So, but then there were times like I and my colleague, because I came here with one of my classmates from Unizik as well. There was a
yeah,
time we came late, but then it was tolerated. Maybe because we are foreigners. But for you as a Chinese, you dare not come late, like without a pre-notice to the teacher.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for us as foreigners, somehow they understand, but then you don't rub it to their face like you're coming late. And then when you're entering a place late, you're not just walking majestically, like, everybody you need to run, like you need to jog a bit, like run to your seat or something, like show that you're not just coming late. Yeah, and then
mm,
cultural difference. And then another shock is the simplicity of the teachers. Like here you find
yeah,
professors are very easygoing. I think it's the same in the West too. Like
yeah,
they wouldn't want you to address them so much with this professor. Fine, it's a good title, but then they're very simple, easygoing, friendly. But it's different from back home because I know if you want to see a professor back home, you need to write a letter and then you have to wait for God knows when for it to be approved. But
I mean, if,
it's a
if Nigerians were even doing appointments, it would have been nice. But Nigerians, you go, they are not there. Okay, finally they are there. They just tell you to go and come back later. They are not in the mood. They are very tired. Or here, all you need to do is write an email. I want to see you. They'll ask
yeah.
you what
Mm,
for. Maybe if you didn't give them reason, they'll tell you, okay, are we doing it online or offline? And then it's that simple.
it's done. Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
simple. But yeah, but then I think that's the difference. A lot of things apart from culture, food. There are a lot of places to go. You have the parks. You don't need to pay to go there. There are so many sightseeing places you could go for free,
Yeah.
apart from places that you need to pay to go. But then there are places you could go to ease your mind. Like if you feel stressed or you have issues to handle or you need a place like an isolated place, there are places you could go and then have time for yourself. You don't need to pay. And then
Yeah.
another thing I noticed is the availability of restrooms in China. Like you could find the toilets, at least you can find one in every street. Clean. Yeah, yeah.
And there are
It's always available.
public restrooms.
Y- Yeah, you don't need to pay for them. Like very clean. So these are the things that
Nice.
when you look at them, yeah, very nice. I know I didn't find that in Germany. I was just drinking water and then I
No,
became pressed.
sorry, you have to plan your. No, no, when you're going out, you actually have to think about it, depend on where you are going to. Because there are also
Going.
sometimes you go to a certain shop, they don't have a restroom for clients. The restroom is for maybe staff and
Yeah,
stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, they
yeah,
don't have no. I mean, there are also places like you can see public restrooms, but most times you're required to pay. When you see public restroom, it can just be 50 cents or or €1, but they are not very common,
yeah.
which is why I'm surprised. But also when there is an event, like in my house, there was this party they had around. Even though there was a toilet in the because it's a pitch, like a football pitch, there's a toilet and bathroom. They also came with a mobile toilet and bathroom to make it easier for people who
Hmm.
are at the event. I wouldn't know if people. I don't think people paid for it. Yeah, but they don't have toilet and bathroom on every street. No, no, no. If they do, they also it
Yeah,
won't be
I
free.
thought
It won't be free.
yeah, I think the ones I saw in Germany, I had to pay like 0.5,
Yeah.
but here it's for free and very convenient, well cleaned, you know. So a lot of differences. And
So
then back home, man, you can't find things like this. Even when you find them, you have to pay, but still. I don't want to talk about the Nigerian
do you even
setting, but let me
find
focus on
them?
China.
See,
Uh,
let's not talk about because I just remembered something very traumatic. I went somewhere back in Nigeria. That was around the COVID time, 2020, 2021.
okay.
And I went as I was pressed. I went to check the restroom. That shit was not clean enough. I was like, no, I can't do this. Let me go home. But when the devil wants to move, it moves like a mad person. See, I was heading home. There were no buses. I think I couldn't take Uber because the distance from my house from where I was, by the time I paid the amount, it was just going to be too much. So I still walking to the bus stop,
Yeah.
but then I just couldn't hold myself. And I went into an eatery because I mean that's how it is. It was not usually if it's a working day, it was on a Sunday. If it was a working day, I would have gone into a bank, and there are lots of bank in the streets. But I had to go to a restaurant. I asked them where the toilet is. They said you can't use a restroom until you pay. You buy something. You know how, like, as if the thing wanted to come out. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I quickly
Ah.
had to order something. Immediately I ordered whatever I ordered, paid for it, I zoomed in. And now, guess what? The toilet was not even clean enough. And I'm like, of course, at this point, it was either you shall do what you have to do, and then pray you don't, there's nothing you contract, and they keep it moving, or keep on running. And I'll never, that
Yeah.
was very traumatizing. And that cannot happen in Germany here because if I'd gone to a restaurant in Germany and said I want to use a restroom, they will let me because they are doing the assumption that I will eventually come and buy, not as opposed to you buy first and
Yeah.
it's a bit of it's not a nice thing that we do things like that. But I also can understand why
Mhm.
because who's going to clean the toilet after? Especially from a customer that doesn't buy
Yeah.
anything and things like that.
Yeah.
But let's not dwell so much about the weather and how are you doing with the weather? Because for me, that's one of the most stressful things about living in Europe. I cannot deal with winter. How are you doing with that?
Uh, the winter is also a problem here. Like, I don't like it when it's very cold, like extremely cold. But then we have no choice. I think having the right clothing can aid to minimize the cold or how you're feeling towards it. Except maybe when you go out and yeah, when you go out, you have to use the public transportation. Maybe you're using the bus or you're using the taxi or you're using the metro. And the metro, you have a lot of people inside the metro, so it helps to reduce the the degree of cold, right? When there are so many
Yeah,
people, it brings warmth. And if you're in your room, you could use the heater, but then you have to pay for the utility, right? The more
yeah,
you use, the more energy you consume, the higher your bills at the end of the month.
yeah.
So yeah. And then when it's sunny, oh damn, it's really crazy. It's usually on the high side. And
Yes.
there was this
And then you have
comment
to down.
there was this comment yeah, there was this comment there when I came to China. I like from a Chinese, the person said, "Oh, is it very hot in your country? Is that why you're black?" I'm like, I'm
I'm
like,
sorry. That's a very stupid question
I'm
to
like,
ask.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But for me, it was very funny, and I said to him,
Yeah,
I
of course
said,
it's
"No,
funny
this
too.
is this is the color of my skin, and this is the color of the skin of most Africans. I know I'm not too dark per
You're not
se.
even
If I'm in Nigeria,
you're not
people will
even
be like,
dark.
"Hey, Oyibo." People will be
You
like, Oyibo,
get
you know.
you get
But then, yeah. Yeah, so when he said, I said no, that even the temperature here, like I think that particular day, the temperature here was about 35 degrees C. I'm like, see, back home, I've never felt this intensity of the sun before.
Yeah,
Yeah, so when it's sunny or when it's winter, it's usually very cold. When it's summer, it's usually very hot. So it's always extreme both ways.
true, true. Like there's no in
Yeah.
between. And now that you mentioned the stupid question someone asked you, are there been other questions people asked you that you found ridiculous, maybe funny, or of course plain ignorant? I'm going to give an example. I've been asked more than once. About two or three people have asked me if we speak Nigerian in Nigeria. And the first time I was like, what's this person talking about? And he said, of course, I
Yeah.
was surprised. I have to ask, and he said like three times. That's when it hits me. That was actually asking me if we speak Nigerian as a
Mm,
language. Of course, I have to explain to him that that's not what we speak. And by the second time it
yeah.
happened, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I have to. So I've got other stupid questions or ignorant questions, or even maybe funny questions that people have asked you about Nigeria because of their limited knowledge about how things are in the country.
Oh yeah. Apart from maybe is it because of the intensity of the sun that's why you're black?
Yeah.
Or the next is why are you black? Like why is your skin black? Like and then you don't know how to respond to such question because it's very
That's a
funny.
racist thing
You,
to say, isn't it?
for me, I don't really see it that way. I feel maybe this person is not well oriented, or maybe the
Yeah.
person has not seen, because sometimes they are kids. Some of them are kids. They see you
Okay.
and they're just overwhelmed. Yeah, they're kids. And the next thing they say, oh, that's a foreigner, that's a black
Yeah.
person. And you just look at them and then you smile. Some of them, it's like the first time they're seeing a foreigner, so they're just overwhelmed by this person isn't Chinese, this person doesn't look like me. So if you have the opportunity to express yourself, like give them the reason that, oh, you're from another continent, then it's okay. Then I think where they find it's confusing, they see Africans as the same. They don't know the difference between Africa as a continent, and then we have different countries that make up this continent. So even when you say you're a Nigerian, or you're from Ghana, or you're from Zimbabwe, or any of the African countries, from South Africa and the rest of them, they just refer you to Fejo. Fejo is like Africa in Chinese, so
Okay.
they don't know the difference. Yeah. And then another question is actually I think that would be all for now.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And the one
Yeah.
about, interestingly, because I thought it was a whole Europeans know about African countries, which I find very interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's people in Germany and Austria, which are the places I've been to and lived, they know about African countries. But the thing they do sometimes is when you tell them we are from Nigeria, they'll tell you about their friend who's from Kenya or someone who has this. I just remember, I said Kenya, and I remembered something. When I was in Austria, this guy, I think he was 25 at the time, he lived in my building. So I was in at the house I lived because it was a student housing. We had a shared kitchen. So I was in the kitchen on my floor. And he was basically asking me, I can't remember how the conversation started, but he was asking me about lions. I'm like, why are you asking me about lions? He asked me if I've seen
Lions.
lions. I'm like, why are you asking me about lions? He was like, I'm from Africa. I'm like, so I'm supposed to see lions on the streets? He said, yes. And of course, because he has told me before he has been to Kenya. So he said, yes. I'm like, so have you seen lions on the street before? He said, no. But he said he saw it when he was in Kenya. I was like, okay, in Kenya, was it on the street? He said no. Asked him where it, so it was like he had to go to the safari. I'm like, so you went in Kenya, you went to safari to see lion? He said yes. I'm like, exactly. Nobody
Yes.
has lions, animals on the street. But it was shocking because I'm like, he seemed genuinely, because he was actually one of the people that I really got along with in the hostel. And then he just asked me out of the blue. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Lions on the street? I don't even know if they are, I don't even think lions are. in Nigeria. Even if they are, I think they must have been extinct.
They
Ah,
should be they
wow.
should be in the zoo. I've seen one in the zoo at University of Ibadan during my service
Yeah, I mean
here.
that's where they are. I mean,
But
I'm not
there,
thinking any, but I think even in the
yeah.
bushes in Nigeria, I don't think you can, those wild animals exist.
No, 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 no. I don't think so.
That's what the stupidest question I've been
Yeah,
asked. I'm like, oh, hi, okay. So, but yeah, I think
yeah,
okay now. So now
yeah.
that you've come to a new environment, there is new food, there are new people, there are people asking you if you are black because of the sun. Basically, things are new. How did you manage to adapt? What did you do differently to be able to help you ease into your experience as someone who is in a new environment?
Okay, I think I was able to get acclimatized to this environment. Um, Firstly, the set of Nigerians I met, yeah, they were very nice people and they gave us a very good orientation of the environment we were in, the do's and the don'ts. So, keeping to such rules made it very easy. At some point, even when you're asked some silly questions, you just see it as a culture. You just see it
Yeah,
as a way of life. Yeah, you don't hold any do I use the word like a hard
grudge.
feeling towards it? Just
Yeah.
yeah. I wouldn't say grudge because they've not offended me, so
Basically, you don't
and
feel
then
you
it's
don't
a
you try not
random
to be offended. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I just feel they when you meet somebody today, you may not meet the person tomorrow. So the person
yeah.
doesn't even know you. Right? So then the orientation I got made it very easy for me to adapt to the environment and it's the same thing. Like when I meet new Nigerians that come to China, I try as much as I can to give them the same orientation because I feel with this orientation, you'll be able to adapt with the people in your environment. You'll be able to avoid some things that are irrelevant, know when to speak up, know when not to speak up, know when to see things as it's normal, right? Yeah. So I think that's the major
Yeah.
thing. The people I met,
I mean,
I really thank them for that. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Very that you mentioned the people because for me too, I think my experience in Germany has been easier than it would have because I have
Mm.
Nigerian friends and I don't exactly. I mean, it's important to have foreign friends too, but also you kind of need the Nigerian friends because the Chinese people don't have the same shared experience with as you. So there are a lot of things they may
No.
not relate to based on the fact that I mean they are Chinese, they're in their country. They don't have to hustle to get their papers, they don't have to do anything new. But for you being that you're new, I
Yeah.
think it makes sense to try as much as possible to hold on to as many Nigerians as you can find. And hopefully they are nice people too, because if they are nice people, they're able to show you the way, give you the kind of support you need, and most importantly, respect you as a person. Because if you meet some kind of people, they would definitely misbehave and you would end up
Yeah. It
regretting the
will
fact that you
affect
even
you.
tried to interact with exactly with other Nigerians.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I had
And
good set of people. Yeah, I met good set of people. So although there are people you meet and they be like, people I met, they didn't give me this kind of orientation. Everybody
yes,
had different feeling, different people they met. So, but for me,
yeah,
it was just easy going. Number one is that they were my seniors from my
yeah.
department
So you kind of already
when I
know them
came.
too.
Yeah, so they made it very easy blending into the environment and meeting new set of people. So I didn't have any problems along the way. No.
Okay, I know you have at least when we are still working together, you used to have a very good relationship with your siblings and your family. Now that you are far away, how has that changed? Or basically, how have you managed to navigate the kind of your relationship in such a way that there's no divide or noticeable, so it's not noticeable that you've been away.
Um, yeah, I still keep good communication with my family and friends. Although for friends, I wouldn't say everyone,
Yeah,
um, because everybody's busy. So, but what I try to do is at least once in a month, I try to reach out to close friends. Guy, what's up, girl? How is it going? Because everybody's busy, and
yeah,
time difference, and the same with my family. I still keep communication with my siblings. We talk, my parents as well. We also talk. And if my dad needs to talk to me or my mom needs to talk to me, they could just send a message now. And if I'm in the classroom, I tell them, "Oh, mom, I'm in the classroom. Please give me like few minutes," or and
yeah,
then I reach out. But for friends, it's not really like that per se, but then we still communicate. I still like keep up with friends. Even at some point, some people will be like, "Ah, girl, you should say Japa because your character has not changed." Like, you still try to keep up with people. Unlike some people that when they travel
yeah.
and that's it, yeah, all the
They cut ties with
communication is just,
everybody.
yeah, but then I try, but then I still tell them, "Oh, we cannot be having this conversation like, back to back."
Yeah,
Yeah, like some people want to keep up with you like every day, how you doing, and it cannot be like that because time different. You may text me and then I'm sleeping, and if I don't
yeah,
respond, it's like this person is snubbing me. Some of them had this mindset. Once I started breaking it
yeah,
down, yeah, and sometimes some people may call you on a video call, but then you're not disposed, right?
yeah,
You may not be disposed, but then you're disposed to pick the normal call, the normal voice call, but then you're not disposed to pick the video call. So when you have friends, you tend to explain these things to them and for them to be able to understand how the world is. It's not really like, so a lot of changes, but still the
yeah.
friendship is still there, family is still there. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think I like the, I mean, the fact you mentioned that you have to explain to some people, which I think is very consistent with kind of person you were even the time we used to be very close. Because for you, it's always very important to get clarity. And I think it makes sense. And what you said about not being disposed about video call, see, as far as I'm concerned, calling me on video call is rude. I know when I say people think I'm being too overreacting, but like you said, video calls by the nature of how it is demands you to leave whatever you are doing to focus on it because
Yes.
that you have to see the person has to see you, which is why I think for you to call someone on video call it's always important to ask. And the times I've ever had
Mm,
to do video call with anybody, it's always been planned. Like by 3 p.m., I'm going to call you on a video call. Or maybe we talk on the phone and we say, okay, let's do video, we switch. Because I think calling me out of the blue on video, I could be anywhere in the world. I could be doing anything at all. And then I'm supposed to
yes.
stop and then dress up, maybe comb my hair. Basically, you know how, because at the end of the day, you may say this is your friend, but the fact that we're friends doesn't mean I want to have eye bag when I'm talking to you. Should be, but if you have agreed before we're going to talk, I'll clear my schedule. We talk from 3 p.m. to whenever we have agreed. I think, and really, when I see people's video call without, I don't even pick it. Even if I have nothing doing, I just don't pick it. And I don't return the call either. Because I think really, and I've told people that I know too, because I think it makes sense being that this is going to demand our time, let's talk about it. Sure, you get. But I think it's good that you bothered and you explain to the people around you, and also they are very understanding. So I think we have
Yeah.
to round off. Go ahead, you want to say something?
Okay. No, I was just concurring to what you were saying, like agreeing
Oh, okay.
to.
All right. So this is a very a question I'm going to. I think I just remembered. I'm going to ask and then we conclude. We all have this idea that Chinese people are very smart people. So I also imagine that studying in China, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be hard because everybody is expected to be an akada. How has that been? Do you have to read more than you used to read in Nigeria, or is everybody scoring 90 plus and you're just there with your 87 and you're like, what the heck is going on? How has it been?
Yeah, Chinese are actually smart, and then Africans, we ourselves too, we're also smart people, right? I feel it has
Mhm.
to do with the individual. Yeah, it has to do with the individual. Still, you could find Chinese students who are also struggling. You can also find like Africans who are also struggling, but then they are smart, they are very efficient, they are very diligent when it comes to
Yeah,
doing their work. Like they have everything well planned. They could work for like, let's say, 12 hours, and then you could find them doing one or two sports activities for the remaining hours.
yeah,
They work and then they play. That's how they do. They are independent. Like it is not in their nature to be dependent.
yeah,
Like if you have a problem, it's more of like go solve it yourself. Nobody should solve, like make an attempt to solve your problem yourself, and
yeah,
don't come to me asking me for help. This is how it is here. Like you just have to do it yourself. DIY, right? Doing it yourself.
DIY, yeah,
Yeah, doing it yourself. So this is one thing I learned here, because when I came, I felt, oh, it's the normal. It's not like you're being dependent, but then if you have a challenge, you would want to discuss with a friend, right? You could
yeah,
say, oh, Victor, I'm having this kind of issue. But then it's not always like that. You're left to go watch YouTube videos, do your own background check, read some articles, like until you know that you've done all these and then you're not finding a solution. Then you could approach somebody and say, "Oh, you're struggling with this." And but when you talk about efficiency, wow, they are very, very efficient. Like Chinese people don't bend their rules. If, for instance, maybe your professor is not going to be there for a particular meeting and he makes someone in charge of it, you have to see that person as a professor. So as
yeah,
you're coming late, the person is giving the same information to the professor that you were late for the meeting. But maybe back home we'll be like, oh, Victor is my friend or Gloria is my friend. You may not put that in the minutes, right? But it's
yeah,
different for them. So that's how they are. Like, yeah, so you have to be up and doing. They also have this mindset, like maybe for some of us as Africans, maybe we're not good enough like academically. But then they are wild how we break records, right? How we
yeah,
also, yes, based on we don't have these infrastructures and these amenities available for us. Even how sometimes how to go about your analysis, how to write research papers and all the stuffs like that. But you've learned all these things. So China was, or will I say China is where I
yeah,
learned a lot of things, how to be independent. I'll give you an example. Sometimes I share links to some persons about scholarships, and then you
yeah.
still find them asking you a question. They did not click on the link to know what the problem is or to know the information. And then you
I
find the
hate
person asking
when
you.
people do that. I hate when people do that. I sent you
So
this link for you to read, you know?
yeah, yeah. And then you find them asking you, like, what's this about? Like, what's this for? And you're like, what the hell? So imagine you being a Chinese and then somebody tells you, what's this link for? That's the end of your conversation. Like, the Chinese would not even reply. These guys, they know how to keep it quiet for God knows when. So I've seen things differently. Like I've learned a lot of things. So when I share
Yeah,
something with an opportunity with someone, then the person is asking me, what's this about? I'll be like, guy, read this thing now. Know the contents. Like peruse through first, and then you can now ask me if you have any question. You understand what I mean?
see,
And some of
I
them, they
see what you
want you
mean.
to
And
do everything for them.
it doesn't make sense because for me, like if I'm sending an opportunity to a friend, it's because I know this friend meets the requirement. And there's a time I send someone a job link, I didn't read it because I was very busy. I just saw it. I thought this is related to what he's interested in. I just sent him the link. I had to tell him immediately, I don't know if you're qualified. But which is the one or
Yeah.
two time that would happen. But for me, usually because I know my friends, I know their qualifications, I know jobs they can do, that kind of thing. Usually, before I send you a link about any opportunity, I've gone through it. I know you are eligible. And the one time I tell you I knew that I'm not sure, ask. And immediately after I finished what I was doing and I checked the link again, by the time I saw that he has responded to me, he said he didn't have enough years of qualification. I was already like going there to type him to tell him, I don't think you're qualified. Then I saw he has already seen it. And I think that's what it should be because I don't think I can't like what people will say, gaha no no wine, abi tinye guke, something like that. It's basically, let me translate. I won't marry a wife for you and then still give you maths. So basically, I think it makes sense that when people share your link, you obviously, of course, for security reasons, you cannot just look any link on the internet that people share, but you also have to trust the people that are
Yeah.
your friends. Because there are people when they send me a link, I would have to wait till I turn on my what's it called? My antivirus to be sure what's this person because I don't you are not that close. Why you send me a link? But if a close friend of
Yeah.
someone you really trust, you also know who is security conscious, send you a link. It
Mm.
should make sense for you to check it before you start asking questions. And of course, like me too, when I send link, I try to leave a little note. This is what this is about. This is a job. This is blah blah, so that you can also go and
Yeah.
check. Because I also think some people would have security concerns because of their data. Let it not be
Yeah.
virus, let it not be hacking. So I usually give a little no, this is that. And most likely also things you've talked about. But as long as you trust the person, you're sure the person is not trying to, has not been hacked. I don't see why you should not take the link and you be asking me questions about things that are on the link. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
Yes, yeah. I think everybody's just trying to be security conscious, but then some people are not good at reading. Like they wouldn't want to stress themselves,
Yeah.
and they don't really understand that you also have things to do. What they're expected to do is to go through, and if they have any questions, then you can explain to them. But you doing everything like diving into the school website, reading the requirements, knowing maybe the deadline, like this is not, I feel it's not my job to do. My job
Someone
is
asked me
for
to help
you,
them
for
find
me to give you the
admission.
link. What do you say?
Someone asked me to help them find admission.
Yeah, yeah,
One of
yeah,
my
some people do
posts.
that,
And
but
I'm
then I
like,
don't really have
first of
much time for
all,
that.
you get, I was like, it can't work. First of all, we're in different field. I studied communication. This person studied architecture. So I don't even know anything about
Okay.
architecture. So what am I doing? Trying to help you get admission. I don't understand. I had to tell him, please, my dear, you have to do the work. Then what I can do is I'm going to give you this website that does this, blah, blah, another website that you can use to do this, blah, blah. But the core work, you have to do it yourself because I would want to do that because we are friends, but I don't have the time. Just like you said, I have my, at least at the time this thing was happening, I had a student job. I had my I had my master's program was still on at the time. And I have time to, any time to also relax because I'm a human being. Because you cannot work from Monday to night. There's nothing I don't have to rest. I'll not be helping you find admission. This person has a master's in architecture, by the way. So we both
Okay.
have master. At the time, he already has his masters. Me, I'm still the one that's even trying to do one masters. Now he's looking for. He said I should call.
Mm.
What am I supposed to type to Google for me to find the right opportunities for architecture? Because I don't even know what the different. Because I have to really understand your field of study before I could even help you. I don't even get my drift. And so
Yeah,
what
but
do you
then you
mean?
could
And
still
actually, it's not the
search.
only one. Someone also asked me to help them find a PhD program. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Well, the thing is, I can actually find like schools for you. I don't have a problem
Yeah,
with that. I can find a school that is offering your course, but then I cannot do like reading the requirements for you.
yeah.
This is the one I'm
I
not
mean,
comfortable with. So I can search for the school like, and send you every stuff, but then I expect you to read. Then if you're not clear about something, I could even write to the school on your behalf. I could
exactly.
call the school, Yeah, but then I expect you to do your own on the ground check. It shows that we are
True.
working together, you're doing something.
Yeah.
But when you expect me to do everything, I'll be like, hey, guy, you never serious, so you have to read this. But
Yeah,
that's how
true.
I
I have a
tell
friend
them. Because
too.
I tell them, like,
What?
here, you need to read. You need to learn how to read information. You need to learn how to
Yeah.
do things yourself. You're building yourself to be independent. Yeah.
I have a friend too, when he was looking for admission, what he does is he'll send me the link and ask me what is my view about this particular course, about the stability. Basically, it's like I've read it, but I want to know what you think. I think that's also a very good approach to work. In which case, I'm telling you, okay, I think this is suitable. But also, the person studied mass communication like I did, so we're in the same field. It makes sense. But when you have a different background altogether and you're asking me certain things, I don't know where I'm supposed to start helping you, but let's quickly conclude. You've been in China for about 5 years now, and someone is
Yeah.
coming to China from
5 years?
Nigeria for what? Yes, about almost 5 years. Like 2019 to 2024 is almost 5 years.
Really?
And you've been coming to
Wow.
Nigeria
High
since then, right?
fives. No, but I'm thinking of you just talked about flight money, right? So that's the same thing.
Yes,
It's a lot of money, and then the number of
it's a lot of
hours.
money.
Oh,
Oh, yes, and China is very
yeah.
far. So I'm going to ask if someone is coming to
China is
China for work, for study, and you have to advise them, what advice would you give them based on, of course, your experience, having lived there for 5 years?
okay. Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is don't forget where you come from. That's the most important thing. When you're coming here, come with a lot of food stuff. Come with your food stuff because I think the Chinese rule based on food stuff is quite cool compared to other countries where you need to
Yeah,
do a lot of declarations. You need to declare this, declare that, declare. So I will talk about food stuff because food stuff is important. This is something that will keep you
yeah,
going at least for the first few months before you become stabilized.
yeah,
Then secondly is for you to have, if your Chinese is not good, have a translator downloaded. Because when you get to the airports, at least if you cannot speak Chinese, because there are still Chinese people that will be willing to assist you. You may not be able to
yeah,
meet a foreigner, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, if you meet a foreigner, fine. If you don't meet a foreigner, then use a translator to translate. Hold your property very well because, especially your passports, honestly, if you lose that, I don't know how you'll be able to identify yourself in any country, right? Your passport is like who you are in China
yeah,
here. And also try to keep good relationship with people around you. Like maybe you could find Nigerians in your community, so try to identify with them. Yeah, try to identify with the ones, I wouldn't say with the ones that will help you, but then everybody wouldn't be close to you, right? This is how life
yeah.
is. That you're in Nigeria, I'm in Nigeria does not mean that
We don't
I'll
have
be
to be
of help to
friends.
you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't have to be friends, but then try to learn the basic thing you need. When you come in, if you're not used to the metro system, the transportation system, you could learn. Be like just open your mind towards change, open your mind towards learning new things. Don't
yeah,
come here and expect people to do everything for you. You have to be self efficient, self reliant, and self independent. Like, this is what you should be thinking before you come here. So that when you come and someone tells you, "Oh, this is how you book a Didi." Didi is the taxi, right? Online, it's like Uber.
yeah.
So when someone teaches you how to do something once, you should be able to do it
By
subsequently,
yourself the
right?
second
You
time, yeah,
shouldn't be, yeah, yeah. But then if you meet people that are always there for you, good and fine, you're lucky, but you may not always have that. So don't feel bad
yeah,
when people are not helping you or assisting you. No, people didn't come here to do charity for you. Everybody have different reason why they are here. Some are here to study, some are here to hustle, some are doing a lot of things for themselves, and you can't blame anybody, right? So this is the
Yeah.
thing you need to have in mind when you're coming here. Be open to being independent, to learn very fast. Like you need to be very, very fast. The pace at which you learn must be very fast. You can't just come and then you sit down and expect. If you want people to serve you, then you should have the money, right? So when you come, you do your, if you're a student, then you go to your school, you have your school, they will help you, they will assign maybe students to you, right? We usually have
Yeah.
international colleges that are in charge of international students. So you have students assigned to you. That's how you start blending into the school environment. Keep to the school rules, because if you don't keep to the school rules, you may find yourself going back home and know when to say yes and know when to say no.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have to be very diplomatic. If someone says, "Oh, can you do this?" Don't just say no. You can say, "I may be able to." This is a subtle way to like say no, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't just say no, like, yeah. And then when you're saying yes, be very careful of what you're saying yes to. And yeah, the airport rule, don't just collect things from people, don't carry anybody's bag, because this kind of rules, right? Don't make friends at the airports. Like maybe you're on air, you don't know who is who, but then don't be isolated. Be where people are. For
Yeah.
crying out loud, you're Nigerian. By the virtue of your passport is already one thing already. So yes, it's true. Like it's not just coming to China, but then you have to be, use your brain whenever you're doing anything. And then those coming to work, those ones that are the rich people now. If you're coming here to work, you don't have a problem now. Why will I be giving them advice? Me as a student, I'm not expected to work. So why will I be why will I be giving someone that is coming here to work
I mean, you
advice?
you you really
Yeah,
said enough, and quite frankly, some of the things you said can also be useful to someone who is working because even if you are working, you need to share eat food before you are going to learn how to eat Chinese. If you are working, you also need to
exactly.
make new friends, and whatever be the case, I think the advice
Mm-hmm.
you've actually given would also be suitable. And thank
Yeah,
you
I
very
meant
much.
I mentioned food store because you could buy clothes here, right?
Yeah.
So China is a business place, so you could just reduce the quantity of clothes you bring. Don't just
Sure.
pack a lot of clothes and then when you get here, you could find something different you like, right? Yeah. But
I
then
have
food
clothes I've not
stuff
worn
is
since I
very
came here.
important. You did what?
I have clothes I've not worn since I got to Europe.
You brought
But
them
you also
from
get
Nigeria,
the
right?
yes, and I also realize
Yeah,
people nobody
that's
wears this
it.
kind of clothes here, and you're like, okay,
Okay, yeah. So that's why, yeah, it was the same orientation I got like before I came. I was told
yes.
like just come with two pairs of jeans and maybe two t-shirts. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
wouldn't.
But come with a lot
I
of
mean, I
food.
wouldn't advise someone to do that, but quite frankly, yes, come with more food stuff than clothes. And you can
Yeah,
always
than
buy the
clothes.
clothes bit by bit. And I think now that we're
Yes,
also
bit
talking
by
about
bit.
clothes, the season matters. If you're coming in
Exactly.
winter, you have to come prepared for this season. If you're coming
Yeah,
in
but you
summer,
could
you're
just
allowed
get
to.
one jacket. Yeah. But winter too. Do we have like those thick clothes in Nigeria?
So thank
Okay,
you
no
very much for your
problem.
time, Gloria. I really appreciate you for agreeing to do this. And I also hope, I think that's
Yeah.
pretty much. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Although there are some things I would love to say, but then behind your podcast.
No, that's fine. We'll say it after. We'll talk about those ones after.
Okay.
And if you listen to this part of the podcast, thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed the episode and most importantly that you learned one or two things because I think this has been a very interesting conversation and there are things to learn, unlike the previous episode where we're just yapping and yapping and yapping. But it's a very interesting episode. At least you can learn about China. And thank you very much for listening. And remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, and do all the nice stuff
Yeah.
because it helps to give the podcast visibility and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you.